Retain the microphone and please convene the
Very good.
Joint Committee on Finance and Campus Planning, Buildings and Grounds.
All right, so will the meeting of the joint committees on finance and planning, buildings and grounds please come to order? We have, excuse me, 3 requests for public comment. Kevin Ware, Kate Spear, and Danielle Wilson. Each speaker will have a minute to address the board. Please approach the mics. Mr. Ware.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Weir, Vice President of the California Faculty Association. I want to comment on the development agreement for the hotel on the Northridge campus. The Corvius Group is one of several private military housing developers under investigation by the United States Senate due to allegations of substandard housing conditions for military families. The investigation concluded that Corvius and other contractors engaged in business and management practices that undermined accountability for substandard conditions in military housing and makes it difficult to track revenues, profits, and the flow of funds. Is this really the contractor that the CSU wants to do business with? Furthermore, the CSU continues to be in dire need of available and affordable housing for students. Land under consideration for development in close proximity to any campus should serve our students, especially when the CSU's own study concluded that 1 in 10 CSU students is housing insecure. I urge this board to support our students and their needs, which is housing, not hotel rooms. Given the Corvius Group's history, if you do move forward with this project, I suggest that you build safeguards and accountability into the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Weir. Kate Spear.
Good afternoon. My name is Kate Spear, and I'm speaking on behalf of Unite Here Local 11, the Hospitality Workers Union. The Board of Trustees should consider student or faculty housing over a hotel development. As you know, CSU conducted a study in 2018 that assessed the prevalence of housing and food insecurity among its student body. The study found that an average of 10.9% of CSU students reported experiencing homelessness 1 or more times in the previous 12 months. This finding, coupled with California's statewide housing crisis, should lead the board to prioritize student and faculty housing needs over commercial development whenever possible. The parcel being considered for this project presents the board with a viable option for student and faculty housing. No one would benefit more from the parcel's proximity to campus than your Northridge student and faculty population. CISA needs housing, not a hotel. Please deny the development agreement for this project, or at the very least, continue the item until this committee's next meeting and remove it from tomorrow's full trustee agenda. An item of this nature requires due diligence and cannot be fully discussed given the unexpected time constraints. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spear. Ms. Wilson. Danielle Wilson.
Good afternoon, honorable trustees. My name is Danielle Wilson, and I'm here on behalf of Unite Here Local 11. Today, we are urging you to deny the development agreement for the proposed hotel before you. Our members' children attend CSU schools, and many of those students work in our industry. We think the public should know what accountability measures exist to ensure that the developer who has been selected to build this hotel, Corvius, will be truly responsible for funding, operating, and maintaining the facility in good condition during the term of the lease. I just want to talk about process for a minute. Neither the proposed development agreement nor the ground lease have been made available to the public. Students, faculty, and the university community have a right to read and understand the full extent of the agreements that will govern the use of their public land before the Board of Trustees votes on it. And you've heard a little bit about this developer, and we've circulated information, but I just want to emphasize that in Senator Elizabeth Warren's investigation into the 5 beneficiaries of the military housing privatization initiative, including Corvius Group, the investigation concluded that all 5 contractors set up corporate structures that undermine accountability for substandard conditions in military housing, which made it difficult to track revenues, profits, and the flow of funds. Please deny this development agreement before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. All right, we're going to turn now to our consent agenda. Any objections to the approval of the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. We have 2 action items on our agenda today. The first is an action item requesting approval of various actions related to a hotel development. project at Cal State Northridge. The item's going to be presented by ABC Relier, President Harrison, ABC Vice An Juan, and ABC Robert Eaton. Steve?
Thank you, Chair Eisen. The CSU continues to be committed to pursuing cost-effective delivery of facilities to meet the demands on our 23 campuses. As part of that approach, over the years, we've considered and successfully developed public-private partnerships at many of our campuses. This item presents a unique partnership opportunity for California State University Northridge to meet an educational need and community demand in an effective and financially responsible manner. Now, as a reminder, in November of 2015, the Board of Trustees granted approval to pursue a public-private partnership for the development of a hotel on the Northridge campus. The project returns for approval this time of the amendment of the 2019-2020 Capital Outlay Program, approval of the schematic design, and final approval of the development agreement. I will now hand the presentation over to President Harrison to introduce the item.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Relier. As CSUN has grown in recent decades, the need for quality hotel facilities within proximity of campus has intensified. The lack of such facilities continues to limit our ability to adequately serve students and their families and to host conferences, symposium, and other events supporting academic, student service, cultural, and administrative priorities. One of the foremost benefits of developing a hotel on the campus is the opportunity to advance CSUN's recreation and tourism management program through a defined partnership with the development team. The ground lease for the project includes a requirement for creation of an academic and an experiential learning partnership that will benefit students and support the College of Health and Human Development's efforts to enhance its recreation and tourism program. With assistance from the Office of the Chancellor's staff, CSUN has assembled a strong, experienced team led by Corbius LLC, which is committed to developing and operating a high-quality hotel supporting the current and future needs of the campus. In addition to completing over 74 hospitality projects, the combined design, construction, and operations team has completed over 700 higher education projects, including 75 across the CSU system. A primary reason Corbius was selected as our P3 partner is their commitment to long-term partnership. They maintain a strong reputation in the hospitality industry and have never sold a position in any of their 32 active partnerships, which encompass over 100,000 beds. When news articles surfaced in early 2019 alleging substandard conditions within housing managed by several private military partners, Corbius immediately contacted CSUN and our University Corporation Auxiliary to inform us of their commitment to thorough investigation and implementation of initiatives to ensure support of their military tenants. Some of their actions include initiating a resident bill of rights, which set specific benchmarks to address resident needs and satisfaction, hiring an additional 25 resident service specialists at 3 bases, establishing local call centers to ensure resident needs are handled by Corbius employees rather than third-party contractors, and investing $325 million to revitalize and modernize aging and outdated facilities across their military portfolio. The draft agreement between Corbius and the University Corporation at CSUN includes very specific requirements to ensure first-class operational and building standards, as well as academic partnership requirements, and that these are met throughout the life of the hotel. These include strict key performance indicators with financial consequences. Furthermore, this project does not compromise the siting nor the financing of any of CSUN's other master plan priorities, such as student or faculty staff housing. CSUN's 2006 master plan established housing sites in other areas of the campus to fully meet CSUN's long-term needs. The P3 partnership allows this project to be developed without the use of state funds or student fee revenues, with the developer assuming all development costs and operational risks throughout the life of the agreement. The agreement incentivizes a shared commitment to the success of the hotel, with the university receiving annual ground rent revenues. Finally, I really want to strongly emphasize the comprehensive due diligence performed by CSUN and the Office of the Chancellor through an extensive developer selection and agreement negotiation process. The agreement terms support CSUN's mission objectives while providing appropriate financial consideration to the campus. Any delay in trustee consideration of this project will also delay design and construction progress and expose the campus to cost escalation that could potentially impact the financial viability of the project. Thank you for your consideration of this project. I'll now turn the presentation over to Assistant Vice Chancellor Vi San Juan.
Thank you, President Harrison. The board approved the proposed hotel location in July 2018 to be located on the southeast corner of the campus near the junction of Nordhoff Street and Matador Drive. The 3.3-acre site is adjacent to the Orange Grove, which includes a path to the Performing Arts Center. The campus master plan includes location for student housing. Just to point this out, thank you. So this is the location of the hotel, and on the campus master plan, there's an intent for student housing here on their plan, this location as well, and faculty staff housing at this location and at this location. So as far as the master plan, there's adequate sites identified for student housing and faculty staff housing in the future. The proposed project will be a 149-room Hilton Garden Inn hotel that is approximately 82,000 square feet with 128 parking spaces. The current cost of the project is estimated at $44 million. This is the rendered view of the proposed Hilton Garden Inn hotel project. An initial study and mitigated negative declaration was prepared in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, which concluded that the hotel will not have a significant impact on the environment. Assistant Vice Chancellor Robert Eaton will provide you with the additional information on the proposed agreement terms. Robert?
Thank you, Vi. Corvius was selected through a competitive bidding process based upon its commitment to the overall project, as evidenced by a sizable $800,000 earnest money deposit, strong access to equity and debt capital, construction development experience in the higher education sector, favorable financial considerations, and as President Harrison just noted, the long-term commitment to maintaining project ownership, investment, and partnership with the campus and the University Corporation, which is the campus auxiliary through which the project will be developed. Key terms of the proposed agreement with Corvius will call for a ground lease term of 65 years with one 10-year extension option, and Corvius will be responsible for financing, constructing, operating, and maintaining the project throughout the life of the lease. The total development cost of approximately $44 million will be financed with 75% debt and 25% equity, developer equity contribution. The ground lease will include key performance indicators, some of which will target academic partnerships, and the project will revert to the University Corporation upon expiration of the lease. The ground rent and fee structure to the University Corporation will have multiple components. During the first 4 years of operations, the University Corporation will receive 1% of gross revenue. In years 5 through 65 of operations, the percentage will increase to 2% of gross revenue, which will increase gradually thereafter at an assumed rate of 3% per year based on the growth in the rents. The University Corporation will also receive an additional 2% of gross revenue after Corvius meets a 12.5% equity hurdle return. And finally, the University Corporation will also receive 5% of any net proceeds resulting from the refinancing of the capital structure or from a sale of the asset. Additional fees from Corvius include the $800,000 earnest money deposit I mentioned a moment ago, as well as upon ground lease execution, Corvius will pay the University Corporation $250,000 to reimburse the University Corporation for previously incurred costs. Let me now turn the presentation back over to Executive Vice Chancellor Relier for some final remarks.
Thank you, Robert. As we've shared with the board in prior meetings, public-private partnerships are playing an important and ever-increasing role in our ability to meet the CSU's capital needs. This project is an excellent example of a public-private partnership and what it can do to meet facility needs and expand learning opportunities for our students. Staff recommends approval of the proposed development agreement and the related actions presented in this item. In addition to Vi San Juan and Robert Eaton, we have Colin Donahue, the Vice President of Administration and Finance for Cal State Northridge, and we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank the presenters especially for addressing some of the concerns that were expressed by the public speakers. I think that was very helpful to the board to hear you going directly at those issues. Questions, comments from the board? I have Jack, Jane.
Yes, I did. I want to
Wait, Jeff. I'll put you down, okay? Jack, please begin.
Just a quick question. I understand all the terms on the ground lease. Why is there? It just seems the 1% seems to me, in commercial terms, to be a low number, and there's no participation in terms of hotel revenues, bar revenues, restaurant revenues. What's the rationale for that?
Go ahead. Let Colin handle that one.
So in the early years of the ground lease, the margins are fairly thin. And just to clarify, there actually is participation. The percentages of gross, and they're all on gross, do include all revenue. So it does include food, beverage, and that's a significant piece. You're correct there. That's probably $1 million a year alone. So once we get to year 5 and are fully stabilized, that's when the pro forma allowed for the 2% jump.
The 2% kicks in on top of the 1% at about year 5?
It's actually a 2% base, so it just jumps to exactly 2% at year 5. And then, of course, there's provisions, as Robert noted, for additional ground rent once the return hurdle is met, the investor return hurdle of 12.5% return. Then we get another 2%. So ultimately, down the road, the campus, it will take a number of years to get there, but they will be making 4% of the gross revenue effectively.
Yeah.
Jane?
Yes. I did look at the Reuters report about Corvius, and it was pretty alarming. I hear what President Harrison says, and I'm sure you have done your due diligence. Just as a follow-up, because trustees have fiduciary duty here too, could you tell me a few other projects? President Harrison mentioned that Corvius had done a number of projects at CSU. Could you tell us what a few of those are and how they've turned out?
So actually, most of the CSU projects we talked about are either the architect or the general contractor who do quite a bit of work in the CSU. Corvius, though, has a huge portfolio in higher education. And so they have recent partnerships. I know, I believe that the most recent one they've done is at Notre Dame. They have several colleges. They did the one project that might be familiar is Georgia State. With the Georgia system, they did one of the first major housing public-private partnerships. So they have a pretty robust number of beds in higher education. And so we actually have quite a bit of reference in that area.
Trustee Krinsk.
Yes. How many bids did you get back?
You need to turn your mic on.
Yeah, understood. Did you go through a bidding process to get that that project agreed to with Hilton?
Yes, we had it. Are you speaking specifically to Hilton or the RFQ process for
Corvius.
The developer for Corvius? Yes, we went through a competitive process. We looked at qualifications and financial proposals. There were, I believe, 4 respondents to the RFQ.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the range? What were could you provide me, at least, and I think the rest of the board, with copies of those proposals that were made?
Yes.
I would appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Does it make sense to do this on a piecemeal basis when the overall concept is to see if we can leverage assets and doing it one off, one on, one the first one without doing, rather than offering them in a package to reputable development companies that may be able to put it into and do much of the work and put it into a comprehensive program?
On a campus basis, I assume you're asking.
On-
The
No,
CSU.
on an all-campus basis.
That may be for you or you, Steve, whether or not it makes, I'm not sure I'm following exactly, but I think you're asking, rather than have 35 separate projects with this one, should we have some kind of a master deal with them?
Yeah.
Is that basically
Trustee
it?
Prince, it's a good question. And, but what we find with these particular kinds of projects, that the campus situations are so different. For those of you who've been to the Northridge campus and have tried to stay in a hotel anywhere near that campus, it's quite an adventure, right? That's not, you can't say the same thing about that adventure at our other campuses. The campus, where they're situated, whether it's an urban environment or more rural environment, and all these things really make each one of these partnerships really calls for them to be separate partnerships. It's really hard to do that. Now, on other types of projects, it's easier to do. So, for example, if we're looking at a major photovoltaic project, right? So we're going to put solar panels. Well, then we'll oftentimes say, okay, here are 8 good campuses for this kind of project. Let's see if we can do that. Or when we're doing energy procurement, we'll say, okay, here's 11 campuses that have a similar profile. We're going to go on a bid for that. So we'll do it where we think it makes sense and where we think we have enough commonality of interest in the campus. On something like a hotel, it really is kind of a one-off thing. It's hard to do this and pick any campus that may or may not need a hotel right now, and most don't.
Yeah. I understand, and that's a very sensible answer. Sometimes if you have an ongoing relationship with a development company that specializes in this type of relationship, you can get superior terms by putting together a promise in the future with regard to a second place or something of the sort. It seems to me the 1 or 2%, as you mentioned, isn't going to make any campus wealthy. It may make visitors more convenient. And I understand that. Just from, again, my very limited experience, is it smart to take possession without having an option to take possession after 70 years when perhaps over the last 20 years, which often happens, no maintenance is done on that building, then they give it back to you in a shape where there's nothing to be done other than to destroy it and begin over again?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the answer, and then Colin, feel free to jump in. But this is something we typically will do with these kinds of deals: is go ahead and take full ownership. And you're absolutely right. The risk there is that when you take ownership, it's not in the best case, and there's going to be some expense with demolition if that's required. But oftentimes there actually is residual value, and we do actually occupy the buildings or turn them into something else. So this is kind of typically what we do. I don't know, Colin, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I just add that it's an excellent question, and we spent quite a bit of time in that in negotiating the ground lease. That's a huge consideration. And so we actually have provisions in the ground lease for a replacement reserve that has to be contributed to each year. There's joint decision-making on using those funds for renovation of the facilities. And there's actually requirements in the ground lease that deferred maintenance is not allowed to build up in the facility. So we had an excellent set of consultants and lawyers working on this deal. We looked at all of those requirements, but that was an important one.
Thank you very much. That's a great answer.
Yeah, let me also add that that's beyond this project. That's a standard kind of development principle under which we operate with all of our P3s. That's part of the idea of the P3 is we're shifting some of that risk to the developer, and that includes the maintenance of the project. So that's part of what we expect from them, so that in 60 or 70 years, we still have a quality asset. So I just want to make sure that's clear for all of our projects.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you very much.
Jean?
I can't speak to the very good questions that other trustees asked about the deal, as it were. But I can speak to how pleased I am that I heard about this hotel project from the first time I visited the campus in 2017. And there's a real need for this facility, and I think it will make a great difference for across many areas of the university activities. And I think I read in here that it's going to be built fairly quickly. Is that correct, or did I just dream that?
Yeah, correct. We should get through, President said, I wish. He wants it faster. We're working on that. We should be in construction by June, through
Right.
plan checking into construction. It'll take us probably 14 months to build it.
Yeah.
So by the end of summer 2021, we'll be
Yeah,
open.
right. And I thought that, I can't wait for that, and I'll be there for the opening. Okay, thank you.
Peter?
Summer 2021 is about 6 years after this first came to the board for consideration. I don't blame you for being frustrated. This is a great project for this campus. And members, I would just encourage you to look at other projects here in California. UC Davis, UCLA, they've got hotel projects. They've been transformational. Transformational. The one at Davis has just been a home run, and it's roughly the same size, maybe a little bit smaller than what we're proposing here. This will be great for the campus, great for the community, great for that Performing Arts Center, which is just amazing, one of the best in California. President Sasaki might argue that. Okay, I appreciate that, but I said one of the best. And I appreciate the importance of safeguards and accountabilities, because that is important in these P3 deals. I've negotiated a few myself. That's why the KPIs with financial consequences are terribly important, and you need to really keep a close eye on those. So I'm sure you know that, but hope you will keep that front and center. So members, I support this, and I hope you will vote aye.
Thanks, Peter. Chancellor?
Just, I urge your support as well. I recall when I was provost and interim president at Oregon State, we had many similarities between the need for an on-campus hotel with Hilton there and the other availability in the Corvallis area. There's a difference between Corvallis and Northridge when it comes to annual rainfall, but putting in that hotel created such an academic boost to the campus for the chemistry department to have a convening of 150 chemists from around the country, and the athletic program to do the same thing, and for so on and so forth. So it really is a positive stimulus for the academic growth and development of a campus, in addition to the revenue streams that Colin and others have spoken to.
All right, I have one question myself, being actually, President Harrison is the queen of sustainability. I'm only the princess. But I know that we have in our sustainability policy an obligation for when we have a contract with a third party, that we assure ourselves that all that we would do, they will do in terms of assuring sustainability, and we do have that in the contract.
Yes, this will be a LEED Gold building,
Wonderful.
and I'm looking forward to the elimination of plastic water bottles as well.
I am looking forward to that myself. I saw a Tesla the other day with 2 plastic water bottles in the cup holders, and I thought, unclear on the concept. Yes, Lily.
Also wanted to say it's desperately needed. I was born in Northridge Hospital, just a stone throw away. I still live in the valley, and unless you like waterbeds, the nearest hotel is at least half an hour away with no traffic. So it's desperately needed.
All right, any further comments? This is an action item.
Move it.
Thank you, Peter. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Jane, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, and that doesn't conclude. We have an action item 3, which is the approval of various actions related to the new student union project at Cal State Fresno.
Chair Ison, as the clock says 3:45, I'd like to ask staff if we can get through this in 5 minutes. Otherwise, we should probably adjourn to set up for our 4 o'clock committee meeting and revisit this tomorrow.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Let's,
Thank
if we
you.
can make it 3, that'd be great.
That's right. We'll discuss it further over dinner tonight.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, this item requests approval of actions related to the proposed California State University Fresno new student union project. We're asking for approval of the campus master plan and CEQA compliance, amendment of the 2019-20 capital outlay program, approval of schematic plans, and approval to finance the project under our system revenue bond program. I'm going to now turn the presentation over to President Castro.
Thank you, Steve, and good afternoon, members of the board. I'll speak quickly. I'm pleased to present today a new proposed facility for Fresno State, the new student union, which is planned to be built in the heart of the campus, adjacent to the Madden Library on the site of the existing outdoor amphitheater. This proposed facility will be a new signature building that will help us to more effectively deliver on our mission to boldly educate and empower students for success. And it will deepen engagement with the entire campus community. The initiative to build a new student union was developed and led by our talented and diverse students. The project will complement our existing student union. The original student union was constructed about 50 years ago when our campus enrollment was about 10 or 11,000. This building will support our current enrollment of 24,000 students and will more than double the total space for student support, including improved dining options and space for 270 plus student clubs on campus. I thank you for your consideration of and support for this student-focused project, and I will now turn the presentation over to Vice San Juan.
Thank you, President Castro. The site is in the center of campus, west of the music building. This is the rendered view of the 84,000 gross square foot facility. There are no significant unavoidable environmental impacts. The project cost is $60 million. I'll turn it to Robert.
Thank you, Vi. In the interest of brevity, I'll just make 2 quick points with respect to the financing. First of all, the student fee, there was a student fee referendum that was passed in March of 2018 to increase the student body center fee to support the project, and that referendum passed with very strong support. 67% of the student body voted in favor of the increase. The facility will open in the fall of 2021, and that's the point in time in which the increase will take place. Secondly, I just want to note that the debt service coverage ratios for both the project, the program, and the campus are all good, exceeding the CSU benchmark. So with that, we're prepared to address any questions that the committee may have at this time. Thank you.
Questions, Romy?
I have no objections to the building of the student union, but I feel I need to point out something again to provide a red line through something that is going on in the CSU and that I keep putting my finger on time and again. Robert Eaton was just very brief about the student fee increase. The student fee increase is $298 a year, so $300. That more than doubles the current student fee. It is actually 124% more. I compliment you, President Castro, for having done this with a referendum, as it should be, and not by alternative consultation. I am very, very adverse to alternative consultation because in the past, long before I was on the board, I've seen misuses of this. Now, if the students decide by a great majority that that's what they want to do and that this is the right thing for them, I'm absolutely in support of it. But I want the students, the board, and the public to keep in mind when we talk about cost of education and the students complain about a $15 increase in admission fee or in tuition increases and the higher cost of education, partially it's self-inflicted. I mean, if you want nice facilities, as you should have, they have certain cost to it. It is not all done to the students by the Board of Trustees. It's not all due to lack of funding by the state, but it's also by the desire to have first-class facilities, and they have a price. And again, I have nothing against the financing of a student union, especially not when the students vote for it, and it's not done by alternative consultation. But in the past, I've seen student fees passed being increased by a lot by alternative consultation that went primarily to athletics and other frivolous activities. So I will keep my eye on it as long as I'm on the board on the student fees and how they are enacted.
Thank you, Romy. It's good to be a nudge. Believe me, I'm well versed in that. Any further comments or questions?
Madam Chair, I so move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Congratulations. That concludes the business of the Joint Committee of Finance and Campus Planning, Buildings and Grounds.
Thank you, Chair Ison. So as a reminder, we are going to break and set up for the Committee on Institutional Advancement, which will commence at 4 p.m. I would like to kindly request the public to clear the seating gallery to make room for the family and friends and trustee scholars that will be honored at 4 p.m. And again, the two committee items on government relations and finance will be trailed until tomorrow, which I'll announce later, but we'll convene tomorrow at 7:30 a.m.